I am the fourth generation leader of a family business. It's 100 years old. It's the joy of my life, but also the most incredible burden, as I think many of you can relate. So I'm going to tell this story by piecing together pieces of a puzzle, because I have a lot of disparate elements to what got me on this journey and what got me here today. So Turtle is founded in 1923. This past year, we celebrated 100 years. How do you celebrate 100 years with a group of people who you have dedicated their lives to? So we had a big party. We had a big party, and we also rebranded the company and thought long and hard about how we want to go to market and how we want to transform and innovate for the next century. So I don't have a picture of the logo that we transformed from, but suffice to say it was like a 50s turtle that my father had drawn on the back of a napkin, and he kept the tagline that my great-grandfather started, which was "First in the long run," which when you're a logistics company can really backfire on you. So we transformed, and we developed a go-to-market strategy that embraced our commitment to sustainability, people, partners, and planet, our belief that radical collaboration is what brings innovation, and also our belief that diversity is a key ingredient in keeping us constantly innovating and constantly adapting to constant change. So Turtle is an electrical and industrial distribution business. We service the infrastructure market. We are in construction, utilities, oil and gas, mining. We could have done the lighting on this project. We do power distribution. We did the first major microgrid at Hudson Yards in New York. We've done all the microgrids at the hospitals in New York City post-Sandy. And we weren't always doing all of that. We've, as I've been blessed with incredibly talented engineers that are also great salesmen and incredible entrepreneurs, we've expanded our scope, we've expanded our footprint, and we've got a business both here in the US and export internationally, as well as services in Mexico. We have a supply chain services organization that consolidates spend for major manufacturers. So we have about 200 employees in Mexico that do nothing but streamline vendors and save money for major manufacturers from all over the world. We also have an industrial infrastructure division that does a lot of cybersecurity, infrastructure security, anything to network a manufacturing plant, a utility. These are all innovations that have happened over the last 10, 15 years. And the newest baby is Turtle X. And Turtle X, I think more than anything, symbolizes, for me, the conflict I've had personally running a 100-year-old business that started as a parts supplier at the dawn of the invention of electricity. And the fact that I'm not an electrical engineer, and that I have been taught through my life experience to always look at what's around the corner and to build for that. So Turtle X is our incubator, accelerator, and venture capital arm that invests in sustainable energy and technology companies that are going to have an impact on bringing our carbon footprint down on the planet. So as we have continued to grow our services and continued to build a moat around our customer with services so that we're not just delivering product and building power systems and walking away, but we're actually building services that will create the glue that will allow us to have a continued revenue stream with major customers. Some of the big projects we've worked on over the last couple of years are big infrastructure, airports, tunnels, subways, bridges. All of these organizations are looking for sustainability as a solution, as a way to lower their carbon footprint, to build resiliency, and to embrace sustainability. So, I'm going to take you back to 1923. My great-grandfather, M.B. Turtle, was the first in our family to be born here in the United States, Brooklyn. The rest of the family came from the Bahamas, where my great-great-grandfather was a missionary and died in the Turks and Caicos, which, I mean, now it might have been a little nicer. Back then, I don't know how great it was, but he made a name for himself with God, and his son and grandson built a sugar trading business and traveled between New York and the Bahamas trading sugar. So young MB was the first to step out of the sugar business, and he decided to embrace this new economy called electricity. And he lived in Manhattan, and Manhattan was booming. There was not a lot of consolidation with what power systems, and NICA hadn't been invented. And so there was a lot of chaos and a lot of innovation on a daily basis. So he worked for the Burnett Company, and he apparently delivered wire and cable on a horse-drawn carriage. So I mean, just the juxtaposition there is so meaningful for me, because I mean, here you've got wire being pulled by a horse. So he worked for the Burnett Company for a few years. He made friends with a gentleman named Bill Hughes, and they decided they could serve the customers better if they went off on their own. So fortunately, back in 1923, there were no non-competes. They brazenly sent an announcement to all of their customers that they were starting their own shop. And thus began Turtle and Hughes. They had a bold vision, maybe a little too bold. Their strategy included to manufacture, purchase, import, sell, export, distribute, rent, lease, repair, and operate as principal agent broker, consignee, dry goods, household utensils, paints, toilet articles, metalwares, electrical supplies, radio supplies, and goods and merchandise of every class and description. I actually have the catalog from 1924, and yeah, it's crazy what's in there. We were sort of a cross between a technology firm and Woolworths. But fortunately, they refined their strategy and they grew, and they moved to larger location. They had to move out of their original location because it was torn down and the Holland Tunnel was built. But they always stayed in Lower Manhattan, and they built the most incredible sales team, all entrepreneurs, all inventors, tinkering around, starting their own businesses on the side. It was a time of huge entrepreneurism and innovation, and those have always been the core to Turtle. They've been the spirit that's driven us forward. This is the team in the 1940s. You'll see one woman there. I got to talk about her. That's Ethel. Ethel is my great-grandmother. She's married to the man standing next to her, MB. She was a first-generation Irish immigrant. She married MB, and together they scraped together enough money with Bill Hughes to start this company, and she had a salesman number. So as MB and Ethel grew their family, Turtle grew. Bill Hughes passed away 6 years after the company was founded. And they continued to expand. My great-grandfather died in 1942. The company had been in business for 15 years. It had a solid customer base, great sales force, and zero succession plan. He was an incredible man who built a beautiful legacy of sell, 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 service the customer. He had sent a Christmas tree to Rockefeller Center in 1936, and that you'll see they're sitting in the construction pit of Rock Center. And he sent the Christmas tree with some lights, and today, Turtle still lights that Christmas tree. 5,000 lights, all hand-wired by union labor. So when I walk by that Christmas tree every year, I think about MB Turtle and Ethel and all of those that came before me, and I feel an incredible sense of gratitude and a deep sense of loyalty for keeping the company going and keeping it special. So Ethel was 57 years old when her husband died, and had 2 children, Jack and Letitia. Jack, I think at that point was married, but had been quite the playboy, gotten thrown out of Wellesley College, and had discovered that customers are the most important thing. And he loved to sell electrical, and he loved to fish, and he loved to spend winters in the Bahamas, and he loved to take customers on boondoggles to Cuba. But he didn't love running the company. He was having way too much fun, and we can all respect that, can't we? So Ethel continued to run the company until she was 72, and at her death, Jack took over, and he ran the company for 2 years. This is a picture of Jack at his oldest daughter's wedding. That's my mom, Sue, and my dad, Frank, the guy from Jersey. 2 years later, Jack would die, leaving, again, no succession plan. Do you see a theme here? And there's another theme. There's always a woman to step in. So my mom and dad were legends, and they ran the company together. My mother was the majority shareholder. Sadly, she was not the only shareholder, and one of the first things they had to contend with in the late 60s, early 70s was a family lawsuit that devastated the family. And that left an enduring impression on me. And I think I was 17 when we finally settled the lawsuit, but it was hard for me to not rationalize that greed and family should never mix, and family businesses aren't sustainable. So I was a dancer and choreographer by the time I got out of college and planned to continue a career in the performing arts. My dad and mom put me on the board so that I would have some understanding of what the business was, to buy out the family members. And there was a reconciliation at the end, so that was a happy ending. But to buy out the family members, they started one of the first ESOTs in 1972 and made the company 30% employee-owned. They did a tremendous job taking the company from near bankruptcy to a healthy, thriving business with an impeccable balance sheet. And my mom and my dad are, to this day, still very actively involved at 88 and 93. Dad still looks at the financials. My CFO's in the audience, so he'll tell you, yeah, he does. So getting back to me, I never planned on working in the business. I had a passion for dance, and I worked for one of the most famous choreographers in the history of this country. I would stand to say she is the most famous. It was an incredible opportunity for me to work for a legend who I based a lot of my early dance technique on. Martha Graham wrote a new form of movement. She took ballet and rejected it, and she broke all the rules. And she created a dance company in New York City in 1925, and she created a body of works, 125 ballets over her lifetime. She has impacted every corner of dance. She's compared her influence on dance is often compared to Picasso's influence on art, Stravinsky's influence on music, and Frank Lloyd Wright's influence on architecture. She is an American treasure. And I joined the company when it was nearly bankrupt. It was at the tail end of the Studio 54 days. Martha still had a number of benefactors like Halston, Liza Minnelli, Elizabeth Taylor, and I would have to run to their apartments on a Friday to pick up a check so that we can meet payroll. It was absolute chaos, and I loved every minute of it. Martha created ballets that were based on elemental human emotions and myths, human myths, and very human stories. She also created ballets that commented on the tragedy in human life. And in the wars, this is a ballet based on the Spanish Civil War. In 1936, she was invited to perform at the Berlin Olympics by the Nazi Olympic official committee. And she declined the invitation, and she said, "I would find it impossible to dance in Germany at the present time. So many artists who I respect and admire have been persecuted, have been deprived of their right to work, and for such unsatisfactory and ridiculous reasons, that I should consider it impossible to identify myself by accepting this invitation with the regime that has made such things possible." So she stood her ground. She was never afraid to be bold, and she always broke the rules. She always challenged authority, and she very much believed in America. In 1944, the Library of Congress commissioned Martha and a lesser known, but a very American composer, Aaron Copland, to do a ballet together. And Martha believed in the strength of the American spirit, and she believed in harnessing that. And she created some of the greatest ballets that speak to America's hope for the future. And they're still performed today, every day, all across America. The company tours all over the US and globally. But she believed that innovation is an activity that happens through struggle and through suffering. And it's not about being futuristic. It's about being in the moment and being real and pushing boundaries to reveal truths. She famously said, "No artist is ahead of his time. He is his time. It's just that others are behind the time." This reflects her belief that innovation in art is not about being futuristic, but about engaging in the present. Martha was invited or asked by the State Department in the 1950s to tour all of the countries around the globe that were potentially a part of the domino effect of communism. So she began this tour that included Pakistan, Indonesia, Ceylon, Japan, Philippines. Her final stop was Iran. And she was the cultural ambassador to the US and to the State Department at a time when there was incredible disruption in that part of the world. So the State Department decided to send art as an envoy. My time at Graham was very chaotic. I spent a lot of time fundraising. I spent a lot of time just trying to control the chaos. Andy Warhol created seriographs for Martha. We received 100 of them at the company and sold them all to meet payroll that year. But my passion was really about keeping Martha's ballets alive. I served on the board for 20 years, and I have enjoyed watching the company expand and grow, and the way it stayed alive for 100 years. And this is a nonprofit, this is not a thriving business. Through NEA cuts, corporate cuts in fundraising, is by always innovating and inviting artists from all over the world to stage ballets on these dancers. Martha died at 92 or 97, and from there, I went back to the family business. I have to credit my mother, Sue, for, as chairman of the board, telling everyone I was going to become CEO. My first 5 years, I walked around telling everyone I was a poster child for nepotism. And I had to find a way to bring my passion together, my passion for art and for dance, with my passion for entrepreneurism. I really think they're both sides of the same coin. Very blessed to have my daughter on board, and at 100 years, she decided, okay, let's give this a try. She had a career in Hollywood and is our chief sustainability officer. Unfortunately, she went through a terrible struggle, I hope you don't mind me, but chronic Lyme disease, which brought our family to the depth of despair, watching her so sick, and she's such a survivor, and I'm so proud of her. But Beatrice has been a big part of our 100-year transformation. She's helped us grow in the sustainability sector, and she's helped us embrace radical change. So innovation is about change and always embracing the moment and pushing the boundaries and challenging authority. Martha Graham's legacy, I think, is best summed up by this campaign by Apple. It was the last thing I did at Martha. Apple launched the Think Different campaign, and they selected Martha as one of the renegade artists that broke the rules and learned how to think differently. It was in direct response to IBM's Think campaign. So I think this sums up, more than anything, how thinking different, always innovating, and believing that change is a constant, and applying that in your everyday business. I asked Martha once, how do you do it? You're 95 years old, crippled with arthritis, and you still go to the theater every day to choreograph. And she said to me, I am a horse that runs best on a muddy track. And I think about that every day, all those muddy tracks, and I see what she means. The adversity that you address on that muddy track or every day in your business is what feeds us. It feeds us to do better, it feeds us to find the truth, and it feeds us to innovate. And that's the beauty of change, as much as we sometimes don't love it. So here we are, still innovating at 102. I thought I'd leave everyone with a little amuse-bouche from Martha. And I just want you to note the last scene on this piece that I'm going to play. That ballet was choreographed in 1932. So with that, thank you, everyone. Here's Martha. So here's to everyone's next 100 years. Thank you.